Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 33 of Expand the Conversation with Jillian podcast. On today's episode, I have with me a hypnotherapist and body talk practitioner, Robyn Holm. She is absolutely incredible, and I have wanted to have a hypnotherapy or hypnotherapist on the podcast for a while now and even experience that for myself. And I was also on her podcast. So if you're listening to this and you want to get a little bit more of Robyn and I talking, you should check out her podcast. That is going to come out on January 15th. Or it'll be right out after this episode. But I will tag her podcast in the show notes. And in this episode, we talk about what hypnotherapy actually is, how it supports the nervous system, subconscious patterning and behavior change, why awareness alone isn't enough when making changes or trying to adjust something in your life, overstimulation and burnout explained, creating safety in the body. And I love going into the safety piece for the physical body, because if you want something to change, we have to feel safe in our body before, or even to support that. And I actually did a one-on-one hypnotherapy session with her, and it may or may not be on her podcast. So if you want to check that out and hear a familiar voice, that may or may not be me and my subconscious leading. But I'm so excited to share this episode. Robyn is absolutely amazing. And like I said, she does body talk therapy as well. We don't talk about that as much in this episode, but it does go hand in hand with the body safety. And she's got a membership for people where she does a monthly hypnotherapy session to help lose weight and just make adjustments in your life. And it's super accessible. So I will also tag that in the show notes. But that's all from me. Let's get into it, and I hope you love this episode. On today's episode, I have with me Robyn Holm. She is a clinical hypnotherapist, and I am so excited to have you here. I have not had a hypnotherapist on the podcast, and it's just something that's really piqued my interest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I was so excited to talk to you today, and I've been looking forward to our conversation for weeks. And I'm so excited to have you on my podcast where we can continue the conversation. So, yeah, I'm having a great day today. I was really looking forward to this.
Awesome. I'm excited. I know I'm going to learn a lot, and I'm sure it's just going to convince me even more of the feeling that I've had of like trying hypnotherapy. So I'm like, convince me. Like, I don't need to be convinced, but I love learning.
Me too. That is something we have in common. That's the manifesting generator in us, right?
Absolutely. Learn a little bit about everything.
Yeah.
So, as you know, I ask the same three questions to all of my guests at the beginning. And we will start with, what's your favorite way to connect with yourself daily?
I love in the morning if I can have even like 30 minutes of quiet by myself. That is my favorite way to connect in, whether I do some journaling or just breathe or even just drink my coffee and get on top of responding to some of my Instagram messages and emails and just plan, like have that minute to plan my day. I really like to be able to do that. My daughter, though, tends to wake up as soon as I wake up. So that doesn't always happen, but that's my favorite way. And if I don't get to do that in the morning, my second favorite way is I love when I get to have a bath at night. I can read and I try to keep the lights low and put on some candles. And that's another really great way that I love to connect with myself.
Yeah, those are both great ways. I feel you on the morning, like peacetime. I usually am up before everyone else in the house, and I'm like, if I can get at least 15 to 30 minutes by myself and kind of, it's also just like my brain waking up. Like, I'm not the type of person that immediately jumps out of bed. I'm like, all right, let's just go do the things. And I know people like that, and I'm like, You're doing a lot."
I just need a little bit of quiet. My brain is already doing that, but it needs to just circulate inside of my own head. And when people try to talk to me at the same time, it's quite irritating.
Yeah. It's like I can't process being human right now. I need a minute.
Just give me a minute. Hmm.
I love it. So the second question is, what's your favorite thing right now? It can be anything.
You know what? My favorite thing right now is human design. I am
Okay.
not a human design practitioner myself, But at the moment, I'm really into it. And again, being a manifesting generator, which is from human design, we tend to like learn 80% of everything and then move on. And so I got into a really big human design kick a couple of years ago. And then I just left it alone for a good year. And now I've come back to it again. I had an awesome guest on my podcast that was really good at explaining all of the basics and bringing it all together. And I find it really helpful for understanding my two kids and my husband. We've done our human design profiles for our entire real estate team. So we know how they all interact and move together. And I've just never found anything more wildly accurate than human design. It blows my mind all of the time, just how incredibly accurate it is. And you kind of learn a little bit at a time when you're ready for it. And I
Hmm.
love it. It's so much fun.
It is so much fun. I love human design. I I've done my son's report and my report. I've looked at my partner's, but I haven't gone like super deep into it. And it's so interesting because as soon as I saw my son, he's an Aquarius anyway, so he's already got that like technologically advanced piece of him. But then we added in the fact that his what is it? His environments is shores. And I was like, that makes so much sense. He loves to be in two places at like the same time. So he's here, but he's also playing the video game. And then add in like he loves oceans, he loves water, but he loves like lakes. So he's getting the experience of both. So I try and curate that for him as much as possible. That way it's like, we're giving you the best of both worlds, guy, because parenting is hard. And so when we look at these things that like kind of help us with our kids, like it's immensely helpful.
I think so too. And just that understanding piece, I think, is important. And it can give us a lot more grace for ourselves and how we respond, but also our kids when they are acting a certain way. It can really help to know why. Because then we can be like, oh, okay, this what they're actually asking for is this, and this is how they try to get it. And that can really diffuse a lot of triggers for me anyhow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually learned something. I had a astrologist on last week and I haven't posted the episode yet, but she was telling me your kid's moon sign shows you how they need to be parented. And so when you see things like that, it's like there's all of these things that add into it. And even with like digestion type and human design, right? Like his is cold thirst. So of course, when he's sick, he doesn't want to drink a hot tea. Like that's not something he's into. He prefers food at room temperature, which certain times I'm like, that's absolutely disgusting. But like, all right, fine, if you must.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is your food taste thing?
Calm.
Is you need quiet to eat?
Not even quiet. Honestly, I find myself like reading or if they're like I'll put an episode on of a show that I've seen that like really gives me the like warm and cozy feeling. And it's funny because a lot of my chart, even my environments is caves. Like I am a very like warm and cozy person.
Yeah. Yeah, totally makes sense. And then what's his energy type, your son?
His energy type, he is a projector.
Okay. So both of my kids are generators, and my husband and I are both manifesting generators, and we're all sacral. So we're all like up here all the time. The energy is really high. And like meal times, as far when you talk about the food thing, in my chart, I need quiet and calm. So basically, I need to eat by myself in silence. And my family is nuts. Like everyone is in constant motion at all times. So I always really, really dreaded dinner time. Always dreaded dinner time because it's absolute chaos. No one can sit in a chair. They're up and they're down. They're all over the place. And I need quiet. So what I've started doing now is I eat an hour before I try to feed anybody else. And then I'm like, okay, well, may as well just take the chairs away because they're generators. They have to be in constant motion. It doesn't mean they're not going to eat. It's just they need motion. So that helped me a lot just to understand that piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even for me, like when it comes down to the calm digestion type, even if like I'm in a high emotional state, I'm like, I'm not going to eat. Like I can feel it in my body, like I'm not digesting food well. And so it's just, I'd rather skip the meal than try and force myself to eat because it's good for me. Like I think everybody learns those balances for themselves. And so that's kind of why it gives you that pass of like if you're really emotional and you feel like you just can't with food right now, like don't.
And did your intuition tell you that before you knew that in human design?
Yeah, a little bit. Like if I was in a high emotional state, I don't typically reach for food. It's
Mhm.
just kind of like I notice I'm not eating. Even, it's interesting because even as my cycle, like once I begin, it's just one of those things where I'm just like, I don't need to eat right now. And my body's, I think it's just there's a lot going on. Even if I can't mentally understand it, my body's like, there's too much. Like, I'm not interested in food.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And then perhaps in the past, if you ever made yourself wrong for that, like I should be eating right now and then I don't feel good, it really helps, I think, to a lot of the time when people go through their human design charts, they're like, ah, I intuitively knew that and I've been fighting that my whole life or making myself wrong for it. And that really comes, I think, into knowing yourself and trusting your gut and trusting your intuition, which is something that I really work with when it comes to hypnotherapy. Because with hypnotherapy, we are working at reprogramming some of the programs that have been running for you in your life since you were a little kid. And sometimes we run those programs without even realizing that that's what we're doing. And we are operating out of our subconscious programs 95% of the time.
Hmm.
95% of the time, we are operating on autopilot and we don't even realize it. And so we can have these intuitions about ourselves, like, ooh, I actually don't want to eat if I'm really stressed. But then your head brain, like your conscious mind, is like, well, you really should because it's important and all these things. But maybe your gut was telling you something all along. But if you have a program running in your subconscious that's, well, you're not allowed to trust your gut. You do what your parents tell you, and mama knows best. And I actually am going to tell you what to do. Then we can have that program running of, I can't trust myself. It's not safe for me to make decisions based on me. So I find tools like human design are really great to help us get back in touch with what our intuition was telling us all along so that we can start to trust that again.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that's why, next year I'm going to do a group program where we're looking at the epigenetics, but if there's also intuitive and spiritual coaching, because for me, I truly believe that like coming back to ourselves is one of the biggest gifts and the biggest tools we can use for healing. There's so much in our world that tells us like, oh, you need this, this, this. And there are things and moments where these external things can support you, but at some point you're going to have to realize that like you already know what's best for you. And so using those tools, it's definitely a way where people can come back home to themselves and say, okay, like I knew this all along. And, with human design, with astrology, with even numerology, I've seen things where I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And it just opens up the door. And even with clients with the epigenetics, they're like, oh, I already knew that. And I'm like, there's your pass. Like now you can officially say, like, I don't want to say like forget the people that have told you other things because like naturopaths, doctors, like they're doing their best. But also, if you know deep down if it feels wrong for you, like it's okay to say, no, I'm not going to do that. And I think a lot of people forget that for themselves.
Especially if they have a program running that says doctors know everything and you know nothing. Some of us have this belief that it has to come from outside of ourselves, or if that person's a professional, then they know better for my body than my body does. And that's not the truth. The truth is that you do know best, and that but we at different times in our life we need different guidance. So we can
Mhm.
reach out to an epigenetics coach or a hypnotherapist for guidance. But my whole philosophy is I'm not healing you. You are healing yourself, and I'm holding the space so that you can do that. And we're getting through these programs that make us believe that it has to be something outside of ourselves. Because our body is designed to heal. We just have to give it the right tools. And we have to remove the blockages that have been causing dis-ease in the first place.
Mhm.
The way that I came to this work was because it took me 12 years to get pregnant with my son. 12 years that I was on a fertility journey, and it didn't make any sense on paper. I was super young when we first started trying to get pregnant. I was 22 years old. I did my first round of IVF at 27 after we'd already been on a super long journey. And I came from the fitness industry. So everything was about the body, the body, the body, the body. A plus B equals C. If you have this result, all you have to do is change the input and you'll get a different output. And none of that was working. It just wasn't working no matter what I did. And so eventually along the way, I started asking different questions because we went through a couple of rounds of IVF and it didn't work. And if it was just about the physical body, then IVF would work every time. And I was very puzzled by this because IVF to me felt like the end of the road. Like that's what you do is if you do IVF, they make an embryo, they put it in your body, of course you're going to get pregnant. But that was not the case. That is not how it worked out for me at all. And that's what eventually led me to body talk, which is another modality that I do, which has to do with getting stuck stress and memories moved out of our body and out of our fascia so that it can function better again. So that's how I started when I was like, I also had a bunch of injuries that weren't healing and I had to take a break from my fitness career. And I just did a bunch of body talk trying to heal my body enough that I could get back to fitness. But I never ended up going back to fitness because I got so interested in the whole mind body connection and why things are the way that they are. I'm very curious. I loved asking all of those questions and learning more. And then I still wasn't getting pregnant. And I was about to go through another round of IVF. And that's when I discovered hypnotherapy because I found somebody who specialized in hypnotherapy fertility. And when I spoke with her, she's like, oh, as far as she was concerned, if you have a subconscious, as far as she was concerned, unexplained infertility meant subconscious block.
Mm.
You're a program in your subconscious that is not allowing you to conceive. And that made a lot of sense to me because, again, no matter what we did, I wasn't getting pregnant. So when I started working with her, we started working on these subconscious programs that my brain was running that would then keep my body from conceiving. And it's very interesting because the reason I was not getting pregnant, we found out later, was because I had an immune issue where my body was attacking the embryos. So here my body is now running on this program of anything foreign is an invader, attack, attack, attack. And that was related to all these subconscious programs that I had of like, it's not safe to be pregnant. It's not safe to have a baby. It's not safe. Therefore, then my body's like, no problem. I'll take care of this and would just get rid of the embryo. So when I started working with my subconscious to let it run a different program, I had to get down to the root of why my subconscious believed that it wasn't safe to conceive in the first place.
Mm.
And once I was able to start doing that work, then all the physical stuff started working.
I love that. And so when you go through the hypnotherapy process, as okay, so I've never been through this process. So if I misspeak, please correct me. Um, so as you go through the process, are you clearing that out for someone, or do they have to go through the process of like, oh, I found the root and we made it there? Or is that kind of something that happens while they're hypnotized?
I love the question. I know exactly what you're asking me. There's two ways that we can do it. So with hypnotherapy, what it is we're putting your brain and body into a supremely relaxed state of body and mind so that we can bypass the part of our brain that's called the critical faculty. The critical faculty is, if you think about it like a filter, if you are trying to implement a new habit, or for me, I was trying to get pregnant, I kept providing, the opportunity for pregnancy 13 times a year for 12 years straight, and plus all the IVF, right? And I wasn't getting pregnant. So I was still doing the physical part of providing. But in my mind, I was like, I want to get pregnant. I want to get pregnant. But my subconscious believed that it wasn't safe to get pregnant. So the critical faculty is in the middle. And what it does is everything that we learn in the daytime in our conscious mind, consciously creating something, the critical faculty goes through it while we're sleeping. And it's like, if this new thing doesn't match what I already believe to be true in the subconscious, it kicks it out.
Mm.
It doesn't allow it to stay, which is why you can only willpower your way through something for like 3 days and then you crash, right? And maybe if you're really white knuckling it, you might get to a month. But that's why that happens. It's because the critical faculty is like the gatekeeper for what's allowed to stay. And it has to match what we already believe to be true subconsciously. So then because of that, we bypass the critical mind through putting somebody into the state of hypnosis, which is just a change in your brain waves.
Mhm.
And if you've ever done deep meditation, the brain waves would be the same as when you go into the state of hypnosis. The difference between meditation and hypnosis is that the hypnotherapist can induce the state of hypnosis through what we call an induction, which is usually something to do with your eyes, or it might have to do with your breath, but you're inducing the state of hypnosis so that the client can drop down into the highly suggestible state of hypnosis, which is just a brainwave thing. So once the client is down in that highly suggestible state, the hypnotherapist can then do it a couple of ways. You can just make suggestions where we are suggesting to the subconscious these new beliefs that you want to take on. If you think about it like a smartphone, you have your smartphone and you have your apps that you can see on the main screen. And then you also have all the apps that are running in the background that you haven't like closed your screen for. So all those apps that are running in the background, that's like with hypnotherapy, where we can go and find out what apps there are that we need to close down that are running and taking up too much of our battery. We can close them down with hypnotherapy. And then also we can update our apps and we can make sure that they're running better. So that's through what we call direct suggestion. So when I'm working with my weight loss clients, because I specialize in weight loss and body image specifically. And when I'm working with those, it's groups. So I'm not doing individual sessions, it's all together in a group. So I rely heavily on direct suggestion, which is where we're suggesting the way you really want it to be. So it can override the apps that are not working well for you anymore. So that's one way. The second way is we can do something called regression. And when we do a regression, I have you in the highly suggestible state of hypnosis, which just feels like being really relaxed. But you can still talk to me at that state. And then I ask whatever it is that we're going to be working on, I'm going to ask your subconscious mind to bring us back to the root, to the very first time that you had this feeling. And usually it's a trigger that we'll go off of, like, my kid said or did something, and suddenly I was so furious. I was screaming at them and afterwards I was like embarrassed by how quickly I reacted. Well, that's a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
If you overreact to something, that is your subconscious saying, hey, there's something here from your childhood that needs to be reprogrammed. So I always say to my clients, pay attention to your triggers, write them down, and then you can either go through them yourself with journaling or through it with a hypnotherapy recording or with a hypnotherapist. So then I say, so whatever this trigger is, I'll say to the subconscious, when was the very first time that you felt like that? And then the subconscious will usually give, sometimes it's a memory, sometimes it's an emotion. Sometimes it's just a thought that pops in where you'll kind of just sense like 2 years old or 3 years older, or like, oh, I'm in the womb, whatever it might be. And then we go back to that very first time and we do something called a reframe.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is we give you what you needed at that time. And the subconscious does not know the difference between yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So if we bring you there in your subconscious, you're there. And then if we reframe there, then you're now operating as a person who always had what you needed at that time. It's like an update. You immediately update the subconscious to now run this new program by meeting your needs at that time. And often, if you're a little kid, it's just a misunderstanding a lot of the time, thinking that it's your fault because kids are incredibly self-centered. It's how they're designed. That's normal. But if you have something going on in your home and it's really stressful, let's say your parents are arguing about money all the time, then you, as that little 3-year-old, start to feel like the reason they argue about money all the time is because it's your fault. You must be expensive. I better not ask for anything ever. And then here's this belief system as an adult of don't take up too much space, don't ask for what you want, certainly don't be picky. You take what you can get. And that might affect your relationships. It might affect your ability to buy a home or have a job that you love. And it could all come back to your parents fighting about money when you were 3. And that's the root. So then at the time, the big thing is being able to give that little kid a voice, first of all. So we'll often bring back your adult self to talk to that little self so that little self can know this is not your fault. This is not your fault. You did not create this. It's nothing that you did. And just doing that resolution, we keep reframing until you feel better. And then we bring it forward.
I love it. I love it. And so I asked that question because sometimes people can overcomplicate the healing process, right? Like, so what we do is actually very similar. I don't hypnotize people, but when I do energy healings, there's always a meditation at the beginning, right? So trying to get them into the theta wave state so that they're able to receive and be open. And then from there, I'm using my intuition and working with their angels and guides to be able to move it out, right? Like I don't actively talk to them. I'm just like, you just get to relax and lay down, like the easy button. Where sometimes people are like, okay, well, what do I do with this now? But there are times where I like through the sessions, the angels and guides will bring things up where they're like, no, they need to know this. Because sometimes there is that conscious piece I found where, like you said, whether they listen back to the recording or journal on something, they still need to actively like kind of work it into their brain muscle is the best way I could say that. And allow themselves to be like, no, like this is something that I'm accepting. This is something that I'm going to actively show that's true. Instead of sometimes people will clear something and then they're stuck in the loop and then they use it as an excuse, or they'll be like, oh, well, I'm that way because this happened. And so that's what this is. And I find that even with diagnoses, right? Like so many people take something like not being able to get pregnant. And, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition at 13, and I don't attach myself to it because I'm like, that's something that happened, but I don't express that in my day-to-day life. I feel really good. I'm going to continue to feel really good because I know that my brain and our thoughts, me and my bodies, my soul's thoughts, work together to keep my body functioning on a higher level, or on a level that's not going to express itself, right? So some people take these things and they're like, oh no, this is just why I am the way I am. And so I always like to ask like what that process is. Like, are we just, nope, we're done. And there may be some homework with it, or is it just the, okay, here's what happened, and then kind of letting them go into the rabbit hole of what just happened.
Yeah, so when in hypnotherapy, and exactly what you're just saying, we don't let them attach to the story. So, for example, sometimes we'll end up in a past life and people can feel quite possessive of their past lives and want to really hang on to those. And that's not the purpose in hypnotherapy or in body talk. We are disassociating those, like the trauma from that past life. It's coming up so that the subconscious can help you to be free. We don't want to relive that story or get stuck in that story. So, for example, I would not record a session for somebody if I know we're going to do regression, because once it's done and we let it go. But I do record direct suggestions, which is where so they're following a journey. What I always say in hypnotherapy, we are creating new neural pathways. So if you think about it like a field of fresh snow, and if you want to break a trail in the fresh snow, the first person that goes down the trail is going to be working pretty hard. They're breaking that new trail. If they have someone behind them, it's going to go easier for that person and the next person. And by the 10th person, you have a nice deep trench that's really easy to traverse. Now, you still have to choose to take the pathway. You still have to choose it. You've made the pathway in hypnotherapy, but now you still have to choose to take that pathway. So in hypnotherapy, we use something called anchors. So we've now done the work, we've made the new pathway, and then I'll do something like put your thumb and finger together in an okay sign. And every time you put your thumb and finger together, that's now linked together with the new pathway. So then let's say a craving comes up, or you're trying to stop eating sugar, and now there's a whole plate of brownies in front of you. You're going to put your thumb and finger together and you're going to choose to wait. I'm not saying you can't have the brownies, but you're going to wait. You're going to put your thumb and finger together and you're going to wait 15 minutes and see if the craving is still there, but perhaps the craving is gone. And if the craving's still there, have some brownies and see how you feel afterwards. But that's what we do. You make the new pathway with the hypnosis, but then you have to choose it with your actions. And I always include an anchor to make that easier.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because it's true. And it's funny, like sometimes as I channel things for clients, it's always interesting because it's like, I always tell people, I'm like, this is the energy that I channel is so it can move things like incredibly fast, and it can shift things in your subconscious. Like, we shouldn't have to be going back to the same thing over and over again, right? And so it's like, what is it that you're choosing in your day-to-day life? If whether we're working on self-worth, whether we're looking at being supported, even with money, right? Like sometimes people won't let themselves be supported in small ways. So why would money support you, right? And it's funny because as my friend injured herself, like I told you before we started recording this, she has a really hard time letting people support her. And she's worked with me before with my energy healing. And so it's funny because I told her, I was like, the universe is really like testing you right now. Like they're showing you a lesson. They you physically cannot help. And so when she was trying, I'm like, no, you can't. Like, you physically cannot. You will make it worse. And then you don't want it to prolong your healing process, right? Because it's so funny how sometimes these things communicate with us, whether it's, not losing weight, whether it's not getting pregnant. There's all of these ways that the universe is like, no, you need to look at the problem. Because even for me, I didn't even think about getting pregnant. I was so young. I always wanted to be a mom. That was something I like just had within me since I was a little girl. And I just got pregnant. And it was just something that happened. And I truly believe that my son is my little soul baby and he's incredible. And it's just so when people are going through pregnancy issues, there's been things where people come to me and they start treating their sex life like it's clinical, right? And it's like, no, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be connection. It's supposed to be all of these things. Like, you're missing the point. And sometimes also it's just, from being an energy healer, I've seen things from like the wrong partner. I've seen things from, because sometimes our soul babies, they want to come in when it's the right parents, right? But then sometimes it is a subconscious block within ourselves. There's so many energetic layers to it. And so it's so interesting to see how it plays out for people.
And your lessons will come another way. So my lessons showed up through fertility because that's what kept me grinding in the sense that it kept me, what is the next, how can I heal? How can I figure this out? There's nothing that would have kept me that diligent besides for a fertility journey. And I see a huge mirror between fertility and weight loss journeys. And I call it a journey because it's never just a one thing. It's never just about one thing. It's never about, there's always a plethora of things that all work together. And it's like getting these puzzle pieces to make your picture, your puzzle. And I might have a piece, and Jillian might have a piece for you, and a podcast might have a piece for you, but you are making your own puzzle, your own puzzle. And you are the one that's going to look at that whole puzzle afterwards and know what to do with it. And I think sometimes we can feel, when we're on any kind of a healing journey, it can feel really frustrating and like, is it this again, really? But it's just another aspect. And when we think about it, like, I just need the next puzzle piece, I just need to do the next right thing, that can be a real pressure release. You only need to know the next right thing. And then asking universe what that might be, the next right thing, is really important.
Yeah, I love that. And, it's funny because even as someone that helps people heal, it's like I'm not healed, right? Like, at no point do you reach
I have a
this
product.
state of, yeah, like, I've made it.
I'd
I'm
like to take this
floating.
off. No, it doesn't work like that.
No. And so it's funny because it's just there's so many different avenues. And for me, getting diagnosed with said autoimmune condition so young, it always, I was a vegetarian for 5 years and that was great until I got pregnant. Like, and he needs all the protein. And so it's just like, all right, that made so much sense. And so for me, it's just interesting because it's been something that the seed was planted in me to like not want that result so badly that I'm like, nope, I'm going to learn everything I can. I'm going to do everything I can. But it also had a big piece of my self-worth and how I treated myself. And it's so interesting because a lot of that was even passed down through lineage. Like, when I look at it, I think I've talked about this on an episode before, but my great great grandmother, both on my mom's side, so we're not even taking in my dad's side of the family into it, right? But my great great grandmother, one was a mulatto or had to register as a mulatto, so she's half black, and then the other one was half Native American. So we go above that to great 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 grandmother. There's so much oppression, there's so much that was just passed down, and you can see it through all the women in my family and their lives and how it's played out. And it's just, I got plopped in and they're like, okay, it's your turn. You're the one. You're the one that's gonna alchemize all of it and go through it. And so I can really see how I truly love myself and I can trust God, the universe, whatever someone refers to it as, right? And I can trust it enough to say, this is in my plan, and that's okay.
And I will find the next right thing.
Always. And even if it's just a one time of like, I'm going to try this and see how it goes. And sometimes those are some of the most massive shifts for me, you know? And it's funny because doing energy work and things like this, and I don't know if people ask you the same question, but sometimes people are like, oh, have you done medicine journeys? Have you done ayahuasca? Have you done all these things? And I've not done ayahuasca. That's one that I'm just like, it just hasn't called to me. It hasn't spoken to me. And some people want to force it and then they have these really negative experiences. And I'm like, you weren't ready for it and you insisted on doing it anyway.
Well, and then my question would be, why did you insist on doing it anyway? Was it because you really wanted to, and that's part of the curiosity then, or is it because you felt like you had to? And that's a big part. So I choose to do my journeying through hypnosis. So I have never felt drawn to ayahuasca or medicine journeys myself either, because I can get the same. And I have worked in hypnotherapy and in body talk with a lot of people who have done medicine journeys, and they say that the energy feels the same
Hmm.
or similar.
It's it's similar with energy healings. Like it's not I've done I've done mushrooms as a plant medicine journey and I've done combo. Combo is a very physical release and it's more of a detox more than anything and it's less ethereal, I guess, for lack of better words. But it's interesting because even through mushrooms, it's almost like it just clicks that opening for me that sometimes, even in energy healing sessions, I'm not getting deep enough. So it's like, okay, it's moving it, but sometimes I still need that conscious piece to remember to be able to come to. Because there's times where in energy healing sessions, like I feel like my body just kicks or my guides just kick me out. And it's almost like I'm not really sleeping, but like I'm just not aware of what's going on anymore. Whereas in plant medicine, I'm like, oh no, I see it. And then it brings it all together. And so it's interesting because it's almost like hypnotherapy, you're still in your body and you're able to maybe remember it a little bit more than even some people would like an energy healing session.
It depends, is the answer to that question. It
Yeah.
depends. So, first of all, it depends on how used to going to hypnosis you are. It depends on how much of a resonance you have between you and your hypnotherapist, because you need three things to go into a state of hypnotherapy, a state of hypnosis. And there are four levels of hypnosis in addition to that. There's waking hypnosis, there's like these different levels, and one the deepest level is called is the Estale state. It's where you're not aware of anything and it might look like you're sleeping. But the state that we work at most of the time, you can talk back to me, because if we're doing regression, I need you to be able to talk back to me. And some people will remember all of it, some people won't. It depends on how the state worked for you at that time and the level of trust, focus, and emotion that you had going into it. And it can be different every time. But when people listen to my direct suggestion hypnosis recordings, they'll often go into the deepest state because they don't have to talk back to me. So I don't need to keep them at that higher state. They can just go ahead and with my recordings, people get used to the sound of my voice. We call that being sensitized to your hypnotherapist. So they'll hear me start and they'll hear me start the recording like, okay, I know what's happening. And they'll just go deeply into hypnosis because they're primed for it and they trust and they're safe. But if I have you in my clinic and I need you to talk back to me, I will take you, if you go that deep, I'll bring you up a little bit so that you are there enough to talk back. Most people remember everything. Sometimes you don't. It depends. It totally depends. And then afterwards, we always debrief about it. So it's always an adventure. We're never really sure what you're going to get. And it's always perfect. Your subconscious will always keep you safe and will always bring about your optimal healing. And what I really like about it with hypnotherapy is that I'm asking your subconscious. So I'm not the one in control here. You are. You are in control 100% of the time. And I'm asking questions and guiding you and observing, but it's all you. And that's really empowering. Some people are worried that it's going to be like mind control. And it's not like that at all. Like you are completely in control when you are in a hypnotherapy space.
I love that. I love that. And it's so interesting because even with there's a question in this, but even in when you say when it takes the right practitioner, right? Like sometimes there has to be that resonance there. Same for energy healing. I feel like anytime you go into that space, like you're drawn to a certain person for a reason, right? And so it's funny because some people, or I've known people to be like, oh, I wouldn't be able to be hypnotized because they're too stubborn or too like in their mind. And it's like, that's because you're not allowing it. And it's the same with energy healing. Like I've had people, I had this one woman bring me her husband and she's like, he needs to get rid of this, and this. And I was like, I can do the session, but like he's not going to receive any of the benefits. Like I don't see the point in this because he's not open to it. If he's not open to the receiving, then nothing's going to happen. It's like I can still receive intuitive information, but outside of that, it's like if he doesn't really want it to happen, he's not giving me permission to go in. And so it's the same with hypnotherapy. And it's interesting, I guess, with people that are just like, why already like discount yourself? Like, why not try it?
They're not ready. That's part of their path. They're just not ready for it, right? And so I grew up in a very, very Christian evangelical home. I'm not a practicing Christian now, but man, did I learn a lot. And one of the things that really drew me to body talk as opposed to that is that people would walk up to me in the church or whatever and be like, I have a word for you. And then they would just spew their prophetic word. And in retrospect, that never felt good to me. And in retrospect, it's because I did not give them permission. I didn't give you permission to read me. I didn't give you permission to have a word of wisdom about me. That's controlling. If you give somebody that's being controlling if you speak something over somebody when they have not given you permission. So body talk is 100% permissions based. So I can't work on somebody's spouse if they haven't given me permission to, and I never would. But it's the same thing with hypnosis. The person that I'm working on, because I do work with teens and children, they have to agree to the session. I'm not
Mm.
doing the session if I haven't spoken with them and they've agreed to it themselves, because that's their energetic field that we're working with. So I agree with you 100%. Permissions is the most important part. And then hypnotherapy takes it one step further in the sense that with body talk, I'm reading your energy. I'm not healing you, but I'm reading your energy and my hands are in certain places and I'm interpreting what your body is saying to me for you. I don't do that in hypnotherapy. In hypnotherapy, I'm guiding you to a state that you can interpret your own subconscious mind and you can listen to that yourself. So it's permissions at the next level, which is why I like it so much
Mm.
because you're only going to end up working with what's ready to come forward. And I can't force that or misinterpret it. And even in, body talk, I would have a lot of anxiety around saying the wrong thing or interpreting something wrong, or here's the information, I might interpret it one way and you might interpret it another. So I find that I feel a lot more confident and comfortable even in hypno. I still do body talk and it's fabulous, but I feel the most confident and comfortable in hypnosis because I know that you are in control and it's all about you and your interpretation.
Mm.
But when you talked about the resonance, so I even when I first start talking with somebody before they even come into my clinic space, I talk with them on the phone. I always talk with them on the phone first because they need to hear my voice. If they don't resonate with the sound of my voice, we're not going to be able to do hypnosis together. And I am not offended by that. There are many different hypnotherapists and many different voices. I could remind you of your third grade teacher that was a total bitch. I like, and that's okay. Like, I am not offended. So let's talk first. Usually, if they're reaching out to me, there is a resonance already that they've sensed, and then we'll talk. And then when they come into that first session, I do something that's really interesting. This is not mine. I learned it from somebody else, but it's called the suggestibility typing. And I get them to do this quiz that's a bunch of yeses and nos, and it tells me what their suggestibility type is, which means the way that I talk to them is going to affect their ability to go into hypnosis. One side of the spectrum, we have physicals, and they're very by the book. They want to do it right. A plus B equals C. You're going to see a set of stairs, walk down the stairs in 10, 9, 8. Very, very straightforward. Emotionals on the other side of the spectrum, if I talked like that to them, they would feel like I was yelling at them. They would feel like restricted and like I was trying to control their experience. So with an emotional, I have to be more permissive, more open-ended, more like in a moment, you may notice a set of stairs. Nod your head when that is so. I got to leave it open-ended for them. And then I have people right in the middle, and they're called our 50s, and they're highly suggestible. It doesn't matter what way I talk to them, it's going to work. They can do eyes open, they can do eyes closed, it doesn't matter. They're highly suggestible. So if they've come and they want to do the session, it doesn't matter how I do it, it's going to work.
I love that. I love that. And as you're talking about like the emotionals, I'm like, I wonder if they're their human design. Oh my gosh, which type is it? Strategy type, maybe? Is
Tell
emotional.
you right now, I have not seen a link between human design and your suggestibility type at all.
Really?
Yeah, it's really across the spectrum. It has more to do with the way your mom communicated with you as a child. So if you had a mom who what you saw was what you got, even so my mom was a yeller. God bless her. I love her so much. She had 8 kids. No wonder she yelled. But she would yell, 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 yell. But I always knew where I stood with her. What she said was what she meant. If she said one thing, that's what she meant. There was no subcontext. Now, if you have a mom that it's always subcontext, what they say is never what they really mean. You're always trying to figure that out and you're kind of walking on eggshells and trying to get the temperature of the room. That's going to produce more of the emotional side, whereas the straightforward is going to be more of the physical side.
Interesting.
It is.
Interesting.
And neither is good or bad. It's just how I talk. It's so that I can help you go into hypnosis because I'm all the way over on the physical side of the spectrum. Like I am the quintessential. I talk with my hands. I have big energy. I'm loud. I move forward. Like, and if I did that with an emotional who's over here on the spectrum, they would like be running for the hills. So I need to know before they come in, and then I temper. I make sure that I talk slower. I'm more quiet. I don't get too close to them. I give them a lot of physical space and then they're comfortable enough to go into hypnosis.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. That's so interesting.
Oh, I think so too.
So fun. So before we forget, and I feel like I already know the answer to this, but what's a topic you think should be expanded on?
That you are in control of your environment by what subconscious programs you are running.
Mm,
A lot of the time we can feel like a victim in the and this isn't a judgment. This is just how we get sometimes. Like I think about myself and my fertility journey. Why is this happening to me? This is so unfair. Why? Don't we deserve a baby? But like that person smokes crack and lives under a bridge and they can get pregnant. Why can't like why? Like why? And there was a lot of that going on. And when we understand that our reality is a mirror of what our subconscious expects to see, that's really empowering. Because if we can update what's in the subconscious mind, then when we start to see changes. Have you heard of the reticular activating system, the RAS?
it sounds familiar, but for the sake of the podcast too, let's go ahead and go into it.
This is the part of your brain if you've ever like bought a new car or been shopping for a car and sudden like you're like I'm going to get a Toyota Camry and suddenly everybody in town is driving a Toyota Camry and you never noticed the Toyota Camrys before, but now there's like 15 of them in town. Well, the Toyota Camrys were always there, but your brain was just filtering them out. It wasn't relevant information. And once you are now thinking about a Toyota Camry, everyone around you is driving them suddenly. But it's because you've now told your subconscious mind what to allow through.
Mm.
Because we pick up on there's so much information happening at any given time that our brain has to filter most of that out in order to stay sane. So if we are used to everything going wrong for us all the time, or for me, not being able to get pregnant, and that is what your reticular activating system is scanning for, that's all you will see. So through hypnosis, through energy healing, through journaling and vision boards, there's many different ways that we can change what our RAS is focusing on. But what you focus on gets bigger. So we can really help ourselves to manifest what it is that we want by focusing on what's already good in our life. And some people call that a gratitude practice. But the more you focus on what is going right, the more what is going right will happen. So we have a lot of control over the expression in our environment. And it all comes down to what the RIS is looking for based on your subconscious programs.
Yeah, I did know that. And it's so interesting how that plays out and how people, once they start practicing it, it's like people that look for, they'll say triggers or glimmers, right? Like you said, what goes wrong, what goes right. And once people finally give themselves the opportunity to look for what's going right, or you take a situation that maybe like 5 years ago it would have completely like wrecked your day, and then now you're like, that's fine. Or you can pull out something good out of it. And sometimes people see me and they're like, how'd you do that? I'm like, I don't want to focus on the bad thing that just happened, and it's not that big of a deal. Like in my 36 years of life, what is this 5 minute scenario gonna say about me, like if I choose to react in a certain way, versus if I can stay grounded within myself and come from love. Because for me, like self-love, external love, like it's just so important, and that's all everybody wants, right? We just want to be loved, we just want to be seen, we just want to be understood. So when we can connect that to any scenario that plays out, it's like so much of life becomes, I don't want to say pointless, but it becomes so trivial of why am I letting someone that cut me off on the freeway upset me so much? And usually there's a deeper piece to that of why you get so upset about it. It has
Yep.
nothing to do with them cutting you off.
Has never anything to do with them cutting you off, but there could be a million reasons why that triggers you in the first place. But I love what you just said, because you said, when somebody said, "How did you do that?" And the answer is practice. Practiced seeing the positive in the situation, right? So the subconscious loves repetition. So we can change what the subconscious programs in a couple of ways. One of them is through hypnosis, and that's the quickest and easiest way that I have personally found. And another way, though, is through repetition. And this is why, like as a kid, until you're 7, you're in a constant state of hypnosis and you're just downloading your environment. So you're downloading all of the apps of all the people around you all the time. And this is how the world operates, in your opinion, based on what's happened around you. After that, after 7, the way that we store new information is through repetition. So think about learning to drive when you were 15 or 16, and how at first there was like 157 steps and it was so overwhelming. And especially if you're learning to drive stick shift. And then after you've practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced, then eventually you get to the point that you can drink a coffee and put on your mascara and drive at the same time. I'm not saying that you should, but you could. So that is through repetition. That's how you've now learned to store that in your subconscious. So what you're talking about when it's like, how did you do that? Through repetition, through repeating, like I'm going to choose to focus on. So that's again choosing the pathway that you've made. I'm going to choose to focus on this positive part. And if you do still get triggered, that's not a judgment either. Just pay attention to it, because then it's showing you where you have a deeper subconscious program that's running, that's no longer working for you.
Absolutely. And sometimes even our triggers, it's like you get to a certain spot where your nervous system was comfortable with, right? So I can love myself to this point. Like people that are on that self-love journey are kind of introduced into that. It's like I can't give them affirmations that just say, I love myself. Sometimes that's so like it's so messy for their nervous system and so heavy, they cannot go there right away. So it's like, okay, what's a small step to get there? What's something we could tell you daily? So then we can raise the bar a little bit, raise the bar a little bit, and that way we can get you to a more comfortable spot of that repetition to where like you're eventually like, oh yeah, like I don't have any self-doubt. Like, and I say don't have any. It's going to come up some way, but definitely in a more, you just become more knowledgeable with it, right? And so then you can take it and go, oh, this self-doubt's coming up. What is that saying to me? What is that? What is my body saying to me? What is my mind, subconscious saying to me in that moment?
Yeah, so that's awareness. So what you can see, you can shift. And if you have the awareness, now that's the first step, because there are so many of us that are walking around with zero awareness. And those are always the hardest lives if you have just zero awareness, right? Because then you do feel like a victim to your environment. And then it does feel like everything is happening to you instead of you attracting it. So I think that that's brilliant. What you just said is that bringing that awareness to it is the first step in healing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This has been great. Thank you so much. Um, for the sake of time, we're gonna stop it there. I'm like, I feel like we could just go back and forth forever, but we'll have people listen to this episode and the episode on your podcast as an
Like,
extension.
yeah, we'll just link to them. Maybe we can put them out around the same time. We could definitely link that out. That'd be perfect.
Absolutely. That way, if you're listening to this and you want to hear more, you will be able to. And so, if people want to work with you, how can they? And also, where can they find you?
Thank you for asking. I I work in groups and I work one-on-one. So to work one-on-one, I can work with anybody anywhere, because that's the amazing thing about hypnotherapy is it's really easy to do over Zoom. So you could go to my website, which is just robynholm.ca, and I will give that to you for the show notes. Or I'm really active on Instagram, which is OK Hypnotherapy and Wellness. That's a great way to get a hold of me. And then on my podcast is called The Hypnotic Empath, and I have tons of free hypnosis sessions on the podcast. If people are just curious about what it feels like to go into hypnosis, you could try one of those. And then I do group hypnosis for weight loss classes once a month, where we work on a different topic and a different subconscious block each month. And then I have that as part of a membership so that you can get access to all of the previous recordings, which is really fun for people because they can work through them at their own pace and just keep putting in those new apps that you want on your smartphone through that repetition. So those are the ways.
I love that so much. And you mentioned that in Body Talk, would they be able to do that online as well?
Yep, definitely. That's what I did all morning. It was all morning. They really are combined for me now too. I was already doing my Body Talk sessions like a hypnotherapist. I just didn't know it. And then when I brought in the hypnotherapy understanding, it's so much deeper. But the cool thing about Body Talk is I'm very educated in this part of the body tends to hold that. And there's a lot of Chinese medicine in it and craniosacral therapy and all of these modalities that come together in one. So when people see me in clinic here in my office, it's hands-on. And some of my clients I've noticed they need that to be able to access their subconscious. They actually need the physical grounding of the physical touch. So those are people that come into my office, but I do Body Talk over Zoom all the time and I have for 15 years. So that's really good too. And then what will happen is because we do like some tapping and some bringing awareness to certain body parts through our hands. So I will tell them where to put their hands. Instead of me doing it, I'll just say, you hold your solar plexus, that's right here. Put your hands on your liver, that's right here. And so that as we talked about, awareness is how we heal. And so when we put our hands on certain body parts, we're bringing energetic awareness to that part of our body so that we can get the information we need from it and also help to clear it.
I love that. I love that. Perfect. And
Great.
like I said, all of that will be in the show notes, or like you said, actually, all of that will be in the show notes. And thank you for being here. This has been awesome. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Jillian. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to talking to you tomorrow on my podcast.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to Expand the Conversation podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review of the podcast on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to me. If you have any questions, comments, or topic suggestions for future episodes, reach out to me on social media. I would love to hear from you. To let me know you are listening and stay updated on all things Expand the Conversation, be sure to follow and tag me on Instagram at expandtheconversation.podcast. If you know someone who would benefit from this episode, please share it. See you next time.